back to How China Works, and this is Yingying Li. We are a weekly podcast show that helps the world become China smart and Chinese go global. In this increasingly challenging moment, we interview cross-cultural thought leaders who can inspire us to find the keys to build our shared global future. Today, our guest is MEMO MATA, an American educator with over 15 years experience in education and 14 years exclusively in China. He has worked in K-12 schools in local, bilingual, international education across China, with experience working with Cambridge, IB, and local education systems. He has worked over 5 years as a senior administrator in education, managing and writing policies for K-12 schools. MEMO is an experienced, well-rounded educator with a passion to make the world a better place through education. In 2018, MEMO was featured in the documentary Better Angels, directed by Oscar winner director Malcolm Clarke and award-winning producer Han. It is one of my favorites, actually, and if you, our dear listeners, have been following us, you would find that Malcolm Clarke was our guest on episode 61 last year, and I had a lovely chat with him in a beautiful Beijing Hutong yard. And now I am super excited to hear MEMO's China stories and how he realized his dream in China. So glad to have you here, MEMO. How are you doing today?
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Wow, great. So first of all, I'd like you to give us our 30-second introduction of who you are and what do you do, and especially right now.
So basically, I came to China in 2005. Before that, I was a United States Marine. And when I came to China, I fell in love with this country and this culture. I use education as my own way to try to save the world. And in the future, I believe China is going to be the #1 powerhouse in the world. So I'm here to educate its future so I can help influence the direction of the future's most powerful country.
Wow, that's basically what I'm most touched by in your role in Better Angel. It was an educator who tries to realize your American dream here in China. And could you talk more about how did you actually get into this role? How this role actually matched with what you do at this point?
Really by accident. I was able to experience some wonderful things and through my memory as far as in my own education. I look back at all the people who inspired me to be who I am, from parents to some of my favorite teachers growing up. And I realized what a profound impact this education business has, what a profound impact on a young child's life. And I realized any leader in the world, whether it be a president or a CEO of a large company, they were all kids once, and they all had influences, and they were all educated to some extent and in various different ways. And I always thought that was amazing to me. So I feel that education is the way to go when it comes to making an impact or mark on the world. I'm never going to be rich. I'm never going to be famous. But I can influence through education and years of teaching thousands of kids. One of them will go on to do something. And I hope that they can take the lessons and values that I instilled in them to make their decisions.
You've been here for a long time, right? And you've seen all categories of Chinese parents. And we got some letters from our listeners previously that they like us to talk about Chinese education, and especially related with their parenting here. So we heard that there's a post actually on social media went viral. That is when Haidian Mama and Shuyi Mama are competing, who gets to have dreams, right? You heard about that story. Basically, it's under this fierce competition in parenting in China and also in helping the kids going global. So there's a lot of conflicts and there's a lot of confusion. So what is your view on this? You get to talk to and engage with so many Chinese parents who want their kids in today's world stage, right? To have their voice and to be able to have
Mm-hmm.
the best education possible. And so, just in a few words, how do you describe this in your turn? How do you actually explain this to someone who might never had experience with this particular phenomenon in China?
Is profound. And moreover, this world is so global these days, more than any other time in human history. When you take a look back at the history of Chinese education, it's rooted in the Confucianist style of education. If you remember it, read it, recite it, and remember it, you'll know it. Unfortunately, uh, nowadays, the world is more innovative, more creative. Humans need to have more imagination. This is what I tell the parents, that you're preparing students for the 21st century for jobs that don't exist yet. And the jobs that we have today might not be there tomorrow. With the rise of AI and automation, human students, need to be more creative. And so going into the old Zhongkao, Gaokao system of education, for a country of over 1 billion people, that system works for China. But if these children want to be world ready, it's not very conducive to fuel their success. Uh, this style of education, they need to be innovative. They need to learn how to be what we call a holistic learner. They need to, learn a little bit of everything and link it together and bring it into their own personal knowledge. And through that, think outside the box, be creative, find solutions to problems that are very big, and have the ability to take a risk and not give up and be resilient and persevere through adversity. It's not about what they know, it's about who they are. If you nurture who they are, then success comes as a result. That's pretty much what I would say to a parent.
Yeah, and how do they actually embrace these philosophies or this mentality that you want to bring to them? And could you give us some examples during your engagement with students and parents here in the last decade, maybe? And
Right.
first of all, is how are the reaction changed, if any, and how is this actually embraced?
There's a phenomenon happening these days, and I've seen it in my time in China. And as years go by, it gets more profound. It is the culture of Chinese parents. The culture of Chinese parents, what I mean by that, if I take a kid who's in year 10, 11, or 12, those parents were educated probably in the early 90s, maybe late 80s, moreover, and for their primary school, middle school, and high school. They were still more of the Confucian style. They were about the homework, they were about the examinations. Those parents, their goal is to get those kids into Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, Princeton, or whatnot. Everybody wants to go to the top thinking that when that kid comes back, they're going to get a top job, which 9 times out of 10 they don't. It's not enough to warrant the tuition that the parents have paid. These parents are very set in their ways. So when you're a educational administrator, you have to talk with and try to develop these kind of parents in a certain way. You cannot develop these parents the same way you would for parents of younger children. Now, once you get down into ninth grade or eighth grade or seventh grade, parents start to change all the way down to the primary school. As the kids get younger, more and more parents stop asking about the textbook and the math classes and the Chinese classes, and more parents start wanting to see the art room and the music room and the sports facility. More and more parents want their kids to be happy, to be a holistic learner, to be a global citizen, which are very different from the older parents and the older style of thinking from the parents. And it's a very unique time in Chinese education right now because there's such a wide, vast of different type of parent now.
Mm-hmm.
One size is not at all. The challenge for owners that own schools is that they try to market or produce a product for one style of parent. And these owners tend to be up in their, 40s and 50s and 60s and even 70s. And so they think that the marketing to the parents about the Oxford and the Cambridge and the Harvards and top scores and examination will give you homework and they're you see, that's not going to work in a couple of years' time, and the owners are not getting that yet either. So the parenting style is different. And I ask, for yourself to reflect, what kind of parent would you be once your kids go into the primary school? 9 times out of 10, parents that are around your age don't want their kids to have the same education they did in China. Because most of you guys in this generation have been educated overseas. You went to England, you went to Australia, you went to Canada, you went to the US, and you come back with a whole new take on life. And this is what you want to instill in your kids. And these are the parents that we're getting these days. From the kindergarten to the primary school, and even now they're getting into the middle school. Parents don't want their kids to be study robots anymore, inundated with books and books of homework. And they're not really caring much about the score. These parents understand that not all kids are physicists. Not all kids are Chinese linguists or translators or chemists. These parents are now understanding that, I have an amazing artist for a child, and that's okay. I have an amazing dancer. I have an amazing basketball player as a child, and that's okay. And now these days, parents are finding out through people like myself that you can actually get to a top university through sport. You can actually get to a top university through art and through the fine arts. So there's now a new door opening of opportunity that is being exposed to the younger generation of Chinese parents. Unfortunately, the older parents are still set in their dogmatic ways about education, but those kids are graduating soon, and you're going to see a huge shift of culture from the younger parents coming through the education system in the next 5 to 10 years.
Quite interesting. You pointed out the diversification of the choices the Chinese parents are facing and the conflicts between it and the school owners choices. I felt that it's pretty vivid here in China. Again, like last few years, including right now, education, online education, in industry terms, right? And they're very, I would say, hot. Not just the hot, but it's everywhere online, especially at times of COVID-19 like we're having right now. Online education and all kinds of educational programs are marketed actually online. So what is your view specifically on how this industry, the whole education sector, it's marketed actually right now when it comes to how to become a better parent and how to become a successful, successful Chinese youth and who has immense future. And this kind of marketing, what's your view on it?
Wow. Well, that's a pretty in-depth question. So let me break it down in a couple of parts here. First, when you allude to the online education, I did my graduate school online through the University of Nottingham out of England. I've never been to England in my life, but I have a postgraduate degree from there, from online. I'm doing that online. This is a wave of the future. This is 21st century learning. More and more educational institutions, good ones, are opening their doors to students. Granted, they have the staff to support it. You can be Harvard and offer online classes, but if you don't have enough professors for the thousands of kids that are taking classes online, it doesn't really matter, does it? So it's a unique conundrum that you have this whole wave of online education now about to spring up like wildflowers. And universities are going to have to look at how to staff them and man them. Same with all these education companies. It's a unique opportunity. You find that a lot of teachers under contract in China will, on the side, do online lessons for some extra cash. I don't do it personally, but I do know of some friends that do it. And in America these days, it's a wonderful opportunities for underpaid teachers in the States to do some extra classes. I have a friend of mine who's a teacher in Texas. Been a teacher there for 10 years, makes barely 28,000 US a year. And she supplements her income by doing online lessons and is making more doing that than her full-time job. So it's a wonderful opportunity for teachers who are underpaid to supplement their salary. Now, to the next part of that, as far as alluding to the parents and the university admissions and so on, it's very hard to replace school. Kids need to be social because we as humans are social. The skills, the soft skills you need are more important than anything else. The majority of life lessons, and I always tell parents this and students this, the things, the tools that we have to be successful as far as who we are, we don't get those in a Chinese lesson, and we don't get those in a biology class. We get those through experiences, through heartbreak, through arguments with our friends, and you get that through growing up in a school society. Uh, Teamwork, playing sports on the team, playing for school, playing for somebody, representing a group or a community, and giving yourself to that community builds a loyalty and develops that, moreover than just singing the national anthem. So for that, there's a lot of soft skills that kids can develop much better in school than they could being locked behind a computer at home.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things that you can never underestimate a school. I think that the best trend, and one of my goals in China is to open a kind of school like this is where you find a nice marriage between the two, where you can actually go into a school and do some online learning and taking your modules and doing it the 21st century way, but you're still in school. You still get to have lunch with your friends. You still get to participate in extracurricular activities and do art projects and find out who you are. So I think that's really a school that would benefit the students to be ready for the 21st century.
Speaking of the possibility of taking being social and improving soft skills online, do you have any specific suggestion for students right now, online, offline, especially in this COVID-19 situation? And more people are thinking about continue improving their skills with either school situation or online at home. So what would be your suggestion for students and parents who are trying to adjust as much as possible in order to be able to achieve that social and soft skill mode?
Okay. Well, social media. At this point, I can actually, it's very hard with these days. You see so many negativity around social media when it comes to bullying and distractions from course and stuff. But with that said, in a time like this, where an unprecedented amount of students are stuck at home, social media is a savior. Social media is the only way we keep in touch. Mm-hmm. You and I are using social media to exchange ideas. It's not just for the parents and for the business people of the world. It's not for the adults. It's for the kids, too. They're talking with their friends online. There are some great platforms like Zoom and others. And if you know how to use it correctly, it's actually very powerful. And you can actually do collaborations. You can, still, adults do it all the time. We do online conferences. And there's so many platforms out there to do an online conference. We can see each other in real time, talk on video, exchange ideas, all from the comfort of our home or our office. We can do a conference call, be it from China to San Francisco, and then bring in somebody from New York and Paris. So it works for adults. Now it's working for the kids.
Yeah.
I still believe that personal interaction, getting to shake hands and laugh and rough house, I still believe that's always better than talking to a screen.
Yeah.
100%. But in this very odd and dark time, this is what we have.
Yeah.
So use it. That's my advice.
Yeah.
Second advice I would have for the kids
Hmm.
is don't waste this time. You're going to have a lot of downtime now because you're not fulfilling your daily activities with sports or art or whatnot. You're stuck at home. Well, this is unprecedented time that you will probably never have in your life again to learn a new skill, to read something that you wouldn't normally read and maybe be inspired, to do some research into your own academic success or your own future. Go look at the universities during this time when you have nothing else to do. Don't waste it spending it behind a computer game, right?
Yeah.
Go out there, go online and learn something new. Travel the world through your computer. I mean, we can do that these days, right?
Hmm.
Um, Find out something fascinating, learn a new fact a day. And then second thing is build memories with your family. I am so surprised and very humbled and touched when I drive my car around. I live in Suzhou, and I live next to China's third largest lake. It's Taihu. And in order to get, but I don't want to be cab and get that cabin fever. So I have to get into my car and just get out and drive. And I know my car is a safe place, so I can drive in my car. And as I drive in my car, I see so many families flying kites. I see so many families walking in the park and walking their dogs and just getting out. And I've never, ever, ever seen this to this extent ever in my 14 years in China.
Wow.
Families, just lots of them out. And there's not many cars driving around, and a lot of businesses are shut down. So the sky is blue. The air is crisp and clean, especially out at Taihu, where the air has just been blown out, and it's beautiful out there. So you have these beautiful, gorgeous days with very low air pollution, and these families just having picnics and little barbecues everywhere along the lake. And I'm realizing that this is not just a time for the kids to rediscover their mom and dad,
Hmm.
but this is a wonderful time for mom and dad to rediscover their kids and to build memories that I hope will last forever with families. So the second advice is go out to the park, get to know your kids and kids get to know your parents. Learn new skills. Mom can teach the kids how to cook. You'd be surprised how many Chinese teenagers don't know how to cook or don't know how to wash their clothes. Learn some life skills from your parents. Bond with your parents, and it will, with a stronger relationship with the parents, you'll find that there'll be more cooperation in the future. You can kind of feel where you guys are coming from if you have a future disagreement. Um, and so that would be my second bit of advice is to enjoy the family time, build memories, enjoy your grandparents if they live at home, learn stories, hear the history of their life and in the country, and get to know who you are as a Chinese and get to know who you are as a member of your family.
Wow. You have amazing observations on Chinese families here. Well, speaking of the possibilities, what tech can do for the future education, and I personally, I'm sure like you as well, are very, very interested in exploring and looking forward to discovering many new integration, online, offline,
Mm-hmm.
for the kids to improve their skills. Because if that could be our only future, that could be our only possibility in the future when it comes to learning, and we really have to adapt to it and make it work. And
Mm-hmm.
and I'm really touched about your story with Taihu Lake and all the families. I strongly resonate. Like, take myself an example. After this happened, right, this Corona 19 and moment, most Chinese have been indoor for a few weeks already.
Mm-hmm.
not just Wuhan, all over China, in this self-quarantine mode. For myself, I really use myself as an example. I just become much closer to my family, exactly like what you described. Either by improving my cooking skills, I upload pictures and show videos to my parents, or we talk about something we normally don't talk about, right? It's just even for kids, for myself, for my family, for my parents, and it's pretty vivid. I feel like this sometimes crises bring a nation stronger, closer, bring families closer, and I do think it's a moment for the whole humanity even to reflect on what kind of education you want, what kind of family relationship do you want, what kind of life do you want to have, and it's beautifully presented in the lights of humanity. So speaking of, you just mentioned about your views on like outdoor activities for students to really improve the quality of living. So how does actually playing American football affect so-called, let's say, leadership building for the kids? Because I view that as part of a very important experience of yours, and you somehow helped a lot of Chinese kids to improve the leadership through helping them play American football. So how was that
Right.
actually? How is that actually impacting kids?
Well, American football, I've always been a fan. I played it in high school. And I got into American football here in China completely by accident. When I started to, I was asked to do an after school activity at my old school back in 2008 or 2009. And so I chose American football. And it's funny because at that time, 2009, you couldn't buy one in China. They didn't sell them. They didn't make. I mean, they made them, but they made them for the U.S. right
Yeah.
for export. So I brought one from America, and it was one I've had for years. And I brought it to school, and kids had never seen the olive ball before, right? They call it the galancho, the olive ball.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I opened it up and I taught kids how to play some touch football. And something profound happened. I was in the local stream, and local stream. These kids are very secluded in their desks, hidden behind books. They are not encouraged to work together. They're encouraged to compete. The top score was always posted on the class. And you always wanted to be on the top, right? And so the students, saw each other as adversaries. And if you were at the top, then you were just stupid and you were in the back of the class and the teacher didn't really talk to you. Well, so I had these kids, different kinds of kids from the class who wanted to try it. And they started playing, and I created two little teams. And I noticed something very special. I had two little teams, and I had like 20 kids, and 10 here and 10 here. And we would play some touch. And these 10 would help each other, and those 10 would help each other. And even the kids who struggled in class, because in Chinese schools, they don't differentiate between learning disabilities or whatnot. It's just everybody's taught at the same level, at the same speed. And if you can't catch up, then I'm not paying attention to you. That's unfortunately, at that time, that was the way it went. But it was these other 9 students that went to the struggling student because they played on the same team with American football after school. And they said, here, let me help you with your homework. Because the teacher would not answer the question or help the students what they didn't understand, but their classmate is like, oh, no, you're doing it all wrong. Let me teach you. Right? It was great for the class, the student, because the student was reinforcing the knowledge of the subject. And it was great because a peer was teaching the classmate. And so collectively, their scores went up to almost everybody making near perfect marks on a lot of subjects. Right? This was the only class that this was happening in because these kids came from pretty much the same 2 classes, actually. So I decided to take a risk and invest about 40,000 RMB of my savings, and I bought some gear. And I went to the park and I started throwing helmets on kids, and I told them to hit each other. And they enjoyed it. So then it grew and grew and grew and grew. I can recall that a boy who's 11 years old, when I was teaching them how to put on their uniform, an 11-year-old boy came up to me, held his arms up in the sky, and told me to take off his shirt. I looked at that boy and I said, I'm not touching you. Because all their life, grandma and grandpa had gotten that child out of bed, taken off the clothes, dressed them, brushed their teeth. He's 11. He's 11. And so the first thing is to have some type of personal responsibility. They started dressing themselves. They started to schedule themselves. They stopped playing computer games. They said, "Oh, it's time for practice. Mom, get me to practice." They've never been on time for anything before. And then I started to get what we call the fouardai, right? The very rich. And so I would get this young man who has this maid, this IE, and this young man would come and the IE's carrying all this helmet and equipment and stuff, and the boy would go out, do some practice, throw his helmet here, his jersey there, his pants there, his shoes over there, spread out, and the IE's coming around and picking up after him and putting it all in his bag and carrying this big bag as a little lady. And I told the IE in Chinese, I said, put that bag down. And I grabbed that young man. I said, is this your gear or is this your IE's gear? He's like, this is my gear. He's like, so why is your IE carrying your gear? And he goes, sorry, coach. And he picked up his gear. And I said, that's the last time I'm going to see this woman picking up your stuff. From that day forward, he owned his own mess. He cleaned up after himself. He didn't just throw water bottles on the ground expecting someone to pick it up for him anymore. He learned responsibility. So I started to see these traits. And when parents, at first look at American football, and their one son is like, oh, I can't have him broken. It's too dangerous. It's too violent. Or Chinese kids are not strong. Or, well, first of all, there is no difference between a Chinese boy's body and a U.S. boy's body. I don't care what you say. They're at the same stage of development. And if you feed the Chinese boy correctly and they train correctly, they're going to be just as strong as any other boy in the world. And I have proof of that. And you've seen proof from Better Angels with Malcolm Clarke when they followed my player Peter Shi around from Shanghai, a very thin boy who grew up to be 1.9 meters and almost 100 kilo of pure muscle. So that argument doesn't work for me. The second point is parents will say, well, my boy's too fat. My boy can't do sports. And I tell the parent, well, that's okay. What I love about American football is that it doesn't matter what body type the child has. If you're fat, there's a job for you. If you're tall, there's a job for you. If you're short, there's a job for you. If you're aggressive, there's a job for you. There is a job for every type of personality, every type of body type. Because it's not just one job. Like in soccer, judo, you have to be thin and fast. You have to have all this kind of endurance. In basketball, you have to be 2 meters tall and be able to slam dunk because it's all the same skill set. But with American football, if you're fat, your job is to push someone out of the way. If you're strong, your job is to get around the fat people trying to push you out of the way. If you're aggressive, your job is to follow the guy with a football and tackle him. If you're short and you're fast, your job is to hold the ball and try to see if you can score. If you're tall, your job is to run down the field, jump up 3 meters in the sky, and catch the ball out of the air. If you're smart and you like strategy, your job is to sit back and throw the ball to somebody and try to beat the defense. So there is a job for everybody. And that's why I tell parents, like, that's okay if they're fat or short or thin or whatever. They can still play. I have a job for them. That's the beauty of this type of sport. So finally, what I love about this is it pushes the kids. There's no better feeling than when a student or a player gets hit for the first time after being so scared to be hit. They get hit and they get up and they say, well, that wasn't so bad. And then they get hit again. They get knocked down again and they get back up. And they get knocked down again and they get back up. And these kids are learning how to persevere. These kids are learning how not to be afraid of pain or not taking that chance because they're afraid to get hurt. So we teach them that it's okay. Be tough, because I promise you life is tough. And if you can play this game, then you take what you've learned in this game and you translate it to life, you'll be okay. So it's really a life game for me.
Wow.
And I is to mentor young Chinese men. There are too many pretty boys in China these days. Um, Long gone are the days of Bruce Lee,
Wow.
right? Where
Yeah.
these young Chinese men were strong and they were powerful, and now they're singing songs, holding roses and crying, wearing makeup, dyeing their hair blonde. No, 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 no.
That's
You, this generation needs tough men
yeah.
and women. And I don't want to sound sexist here. American football is generally a sport for boys, but more and more you see girls trying to take up the mantle and show their toughness through the sport. And I approve of that. But I love female athletics just the same. I've started helping young girls through volleyball, swimming, and track get scholarships to the top universities in America. And there is no difference between a female athlete and a male athlete when it comes to training, dedication, perseverance, pain, because the ladies train just as hard as the boys, and they learn the same skills. And yes, they still fall. These girls will still fall. These girls will still get hurt, and they still get up, and they still keep coming, and they still keep getting stronger. So I want to say sports in general is not a bad thing for a child. And it should be revered and valued just like a math class. Because you'd be surprised how many kids can get into college doing sports moreover than doing math. You'd be surprised how many kids get into the top universities because they play volleyball, not so much that they got a perfect score on their SAT. I have put many students in college with terrible SATs or no SATs, but they knew how to play volleyball, they knew how to swim, they knew how to catch an American football and run very fast. So these ideas now I hope to share with Chinese parents that through sport, American football is great for young men. I think it's for young men, American football is the best thing you can play. And some people will argue with me, because of concussion issues and whatnot. But if you train them right, they should be fine. It all depends on the right coaches and the professional coaches. And the same for the ladies. Do not raise a princess, right? Make them tough. It's okay. Make them tough. And I promise you that their Xiaogongju being will be cured. Make them tough. And because these ladies need to be tough for life. You and I both know that. We're adults.
Mm-hmm.
We can't just keep taking our kids in this protective shield, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this is what I hope to share with the parents. There are opportunities through sport from boys and girls. There are a lot of life qualities, some grit, some perseverance, some risk taking that's associated with being an athlete. And you don't have to be the top athlete to get these skills. And even if you're not the top athlete, you'll have skills to be a successful person.
Really, it's pretty impressive to see one sport change many things, and it changed the culture even, and needless to say, this actually opened many doors for Chinese students when they actually play sports. They're not just exercising, and it's really opening the world view of being educated and being an adult, and it's super important to know. And I think that we need more cross-cultural bridges like you for younger generation. How do you predict, right, from now to the future? How do you see this trend of the the waves of embracing this kind of leadership among Chinese students, among Chinese kids and parents? What would be the challenges, if there are any, that you have already encountered? Like, what would be your solution to it?
Well, I used to teach a class called Theory of Knowledge for the IBDP program, and I was an examiner for this subject. And the one thing I would teach the kids is there's no one size that fits all. What would be my solution for it would all depend on where I'm at and what the situation is, because every situation has its own unique solutions, right? The only thing that you can produce that is universal is a foundation of education, a foundation that's more student-centered rather than examination-centered. When a school, when an owner of any type of school in any city in China for any age group of students goes out and puts together a curriculum or creates a school, if you center that school around the student and developing character traits and personality traits and the soft skills of that student, then as a result will come academic success, no matter what it is you're teaching. And it doesn't matter who the parents are. Every child is different. No two parents are the same. There's a general consensus amongst parents, but even amongst parents who only care about examinations and getting their kids into Harvard, even these parents to some extent are different from each other because of maybe the different businesses that they're in that leads to different family cultures at home. Some kids get to go home at night, and some parents put their kids in the boarding and see them 3 times a year, which I think is a terrible idea. With that said, the only thing the school can do is focus on what they control and not worry about what they can't control, but take it into a consideration. What I mean by creating a student-centered education, a lot of schools say that as a marketing gimmick, right? In the hopes that mom and dad will think that we're going to treat their kid like a little prince or princess. That should not be the case at all. Student-centered means that the curriculum is based around the student's interests and needs. If the student doesn't want to take biology, they shouldn't have to take biology. They should have a science, but it shouldn't be biology, right? A lot of schools will market that it's student-centered and they have to take biology and chemistry and they have to take 3 or 4 sciences and maths and the arts and the athletics get pushed away to maybe 1 period a week, if that. No, that's not student-centered at all. Moreover, it's about developing characteristics and skills through extracurricular activities, through school programs, through student-led initiatives. This is what I'm talking about student-centered. Students intrinsically motivated to do something that they're interested in doing and develop the skill that they want to develop. And then the school supports that and facilitates that with the right professionals to guide them. That's student-centered. You change the model from examination-based and university admission-based down to the student-centered model, you're going to produce higher achieving students. And that's across the board. That's the only solution. Now, with that solution, with that foundation, you can build anything on top of it. It's like a house. You have a strong foundation. You can build a house on it. And then you can add another floor. And you can add another floor. And then you can break that down and then build something new on top of it, but it's still the same foundation. So you need to go more, student-centered foundations and produce a program that will get the students' interest and spark their imaginations. In a country with this many students in it, it's hard to assess that and rank them. So you know what the students are getting. So then in this situation, the second part of the solution is looking at university admissions reform in China. What is it that these universities want out of their students that go there? Do they want the top Baokao students? I mean, is that what you want? Is that what's going to get China into the 21st century? You have tested the students' abilities to remember things, but you didn't test their knowledge. Someone with a great memory is not smart. They just have a good memory, right? And so I asked the question to the universities, the Chinese universities, the Tsinghuas, the Fudans, the Jiaotongs, what you want out of your kids. And then go select what your university wants based on those admissions. And yeah, sure, you want a decently high score so you know that the student does have an attainment ability for memory, but what did that student do? You want a leader in your school? Do you want students who are leaders? Do you want students that are leaders and charitable? Do you want students that went out and did charity? And it's funny because the government One thing I like that the government did this year was require local schools now to implement after school activities and volunteer service activities for all local Chinese kids. So I'm part of the Duke of Edinburgh International Award National Award Office here in China, and we see this now as an opportunity to bring things like the International Award into local schools, so these students can have so many hours every day of physical activity, learning a new skill, doing some volunteer service, and then doing an adventure journey. So so the government already has an idea. So it's time for the universities to catch up, and that way real reform can happen in the education. Because in the end, what's the end result? You want the kids to go to a good university, and the universities are putting out there, this is what we want. So the schools are trying to, mold the kid or present the kid as if this is the type of student that's going to that university. So if you want to develop a human, you have to start with a student-centered foundation. And then the universities have to look at themselves and say, what kind of student do we want? And then relay that to the schools, and then the schools can start preparing, or the students can start preparing which university they want to go to based on what the university does. American universities, for all its controversies, I think are still some of the best universities in the world because they're so diverse. The athletic programs in the universities in the States, the fine arts programs, they're amazing. They offer scholarships, they give opportunities for kids with unique skills, with fine art skills or with athletic skills that would never have a chance academically to get to that great university. These universities find other channels because they welcome students with special abilities and special skills to their schools, so much so that they can get full scholarships. It doesn't matter that the SAT was terrible. And that's what I love about American universities. They give these kids a chance that has special skills. Not many universities in the world do that. And so, unfortunately, in China, it's been marketed that to get to the top American universities, you can only do it this way, which is the same way of getting into Tsinghua, which is the same way to get into Shanghai Dashi, right? It's all study and top score and top score. No, 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 no. You can actually develop skills and still go to those same universities if it's in the States. It's not like China. And that's that concept we have to break.
Yeah.
So so that's why I still attest till today that American universities are still the best and offer the best opportunities for students of so many skill levels and so many skill sets. More university in the world, and you might get some flack on your on your feeds or in your comments, and some people might argue with me, and that's okay. That's okay, but look at it. Look at the amount of money universities put into scholarships across the board for different things, for different variety of skills. I have never really known any student to go into Cambridge on the full ride football scholarship to play, what we call soccer in America, the Jucho. Cambridge, Oxford, they just don't do that. It might help that you played on the sports team, but in the end, if your physics score wasn't high and you're trying to apply for that school of physics, they don't care what you did in PE. And I know that through my many years of doing university admissions. I know exactly what those schools look at, and I know exactly what the American schools look like, and I'm created my high school transcripts based on that, right? And which help kids get into both. But when you focus on just certain things, it's very hard to get into an American university. But if you show a holistic 4-year picture, then it makes it a bit easier for the American university to choose that child because they know what they're getting. So there's a lot of walls we need to break.
Yeah.
There's misconceptions that we need to educate, and there's a lot of concepts that we just have to understand for the 21st century. What you did in the past will not work anymore, and I hope that parents can educate themselves on skills needed for the 21st century. And in the end, it all comes down to saving the world. Who these kids are. You know, like parents, I tell my students, I don't care what they are. I don't care if they're a doctor, a businesswoman, a toilet cleaner, a cook at McDonald's. I don't care. I do care who they are. I care that they're going to be kind. I care that they're going to be risk takers. I care that they're going to have some grit. I care that they're going to want to contribute to society and care about things that are above themselves. If I can produce a student like that in my school, then I have succeeded. If I just produced a student without these qualities that make top scores, then I failed. I could care less about the score. I care more about the student. And I hope that more schools will follow the models of my school, where we're student-centered and we try to build the students as far as character and personality. And as a result, the top scores will come.
Mm-hmm. It is fundamentally about respect. And it's fundamentally about respecting what is to be a human. And if you respect students and students feel they are respected, and they will dig deeper into who themselves are actually, what kind of people they want to be when they grow up. And essentially, you brought up a very important mentality that will probably fundamentally change the mindset and change and this particular moment, the challenges we're facing, the walls, invisible walls in education. And it's fantastic, and we really cannot thank you enough on behalf of my co-host Brandon Davis, and we really, really appreciate your thoughts and insights on sharing this with our audience on how China works. So if there's anything, if there's any way for our audience, listeners, to follow you or to stay in touch with you, what would be them?
Well, I'm not a big social media guy as far as I don't have any platforms or websites or anything. So, I'd offer, well, if you can offer to use your platform, if anybody has questions that they might have, your listeners might have some questions or want to ask me anything, feel free to feed them back to me.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm happy to reply via WeChat or email.
We'll put it over there.
Maybe in the future, I'll create, I must admit, I'm glad I'm teaching my kids for the 21st century because I'm way behind. I would love to have some type of social media page where we can exchange ideas.
Yeah, I'll put your LinkedIn over there.
And then I can put my link up, and then people can get a hold of me and talk with me, and that'd be wonderful. But I just need to figure out how to do it and get some account with something. I'm a big WeChat guy because I've been in China so long. So WeChat's always the best way to get to me.
Sure.
I'm happy to take any questions your listeners have, and I will reply as quickly as I can in kind.
Thank you for being such a great cross-cultural bridge builder. Welcome you back in the future episodes.
It's my pleasure. Anytime. I'm happy to help.